Hi and welcome to section 3.2 for Econ 2 on the AQA exam board. What will we see today? Today we'll be looking at the business cycle and macroeconomic variables. But what are business cycles? Business cycles are the recurring fluctuations that occur in real GDP over time. The trend rate of economic growth is the long-run average rate of growth in an economy over time. Persistent positive deviations from the trend rate of economic growth are known as boom periods, and persistent negative deviations from the trend rate of economic growth are known as bust or downturns. Here we have a graph showing the business cycle. On the y-axis we have GDP growth, and on the x-axis we have time. The orange line is the trend rate of economic growth. When there is a positive deviation from the trend rate of economic growth, it is known that the economy is in a boom period or an upturn. During a boom period, economic agents have a high level of confidence in the economy. This leads to high consumer spending, high investment by firms, and a high level of profit. During a boom period, unemployment tends to be low. This is because many goods and services are being consumed and produced, and labour is needed in order for these goods to be produced. Prices in a boom period tend to rise faster than in a bust period because of the levels of aggregate demand in the economy. Boom periods do not last forever, and when economic growth falls, we enter into a period known as a bust or a slump or a downturn. When economic growth is negative, we can even enter into a recession. A recession is where there are at least 2 successive quarters of negative economic growth in an economy. The most recent recession in the UK was the Great Recession, which started in Q2 of 2008. The UK economy had 5 successive quarters of negative economic growth, running from the second quarter of 2008 to the third quarter of 2009. After a bust, slump or downturn, the economy will start to recover and GDP growth will start to become positive. And then the cycle starts over again with a boom, then a bust, and then a recovery. We can look at various macroeconomic variables and see if they follow the business cycle. A variable is said to be pro-cyclical if the variable follows fluctuations in GDP, and counter-cyclical if the variable moves in opposite directions to GDP. A pro-cyclical variable will rise as GDP rises and fall when GDP falls. A counter-cyclical variable will rise as GDP falls and fall as GDP rises. It will do the opposite to what GDP does. Consumption is pro-cyclical. During a boom, it is high, and then as the economy moves into a bust or a recession, consumption levels will fall. This is the same for investment, employment, and the price level. Unemployment is counter-cyclical. As the economy grows, the level of unemployment will fall, and when the economy declines, the level of unemployment will rise because less goods and services are being produced and there is less demand for labour in the economy. Macroeconomic variables are interesting because they can indicate the health of an economy. They also give you a more detailed picture rather than just looking at the economic growth rate. Productivity growth is an example of a macroeconomic variable that authorities will be interested in monitoring. If productivity growth is low, then it could be a concern that the economy will not be able to grow as much in the future. If productivity growth is high, it shows that the economy is increasing its productive potential, and this puts the economy in a good step for long-term economic growth. Authorities will also be interested in the level of consumer debt. If the level of consumer debt is growing, it could suggest that the growth that is being experienced in the economy right now is very short term and in the long run could face various problems. This is because consumers are choosing to purchase goods and services now and are financing these purchases by debt. These debts will then need to be paid back in the future, and when they do need to be paid back, this could cause some problems for the economy, as individuals will have to use their income in the future to pay off debts rather than consuming goods and services. This could cause aggregate demand to shift inwards and results in the economy experience a negative output gap. The variables that the government may monitor can be leading or lagging variables. Leading variables are variables that change before another variable. The stock market is an example of a leading variable. If investors are worried about the state of the economy, then stock prices will start to fall, and this can have wider implications on the economy. This is why central banks keep an eye on the stock market activity. With this example, the price of stocks on the stock market will fall, and then GDP levels will fall in the future. So if central banks monitor these stock price fluctuations, it can suggest that the economy may move in a certain direction in the future. Another type of relationship between variables is a lagging variable. This is where one variable changes, let's call this variable A, and this causes a change to be observed in another variable B. Here we would say that variable B is a lagging variable of variable A. An example would be unemployment with respect to consumption levels, whereby unemployment is variable B and consumption levels is variable A. As consumption levels in an economy fall, less goods and services are being demanded. This causes firms to build up their stock levels. Firms don't change their level of production straight away, and this leads to their stocks and inventory levels building up. Also, firms tend to be tied into contracts with employees, and it takes a while for a firm to make employees redundant. When a firm notices that their inventories are building up, they will change their production processes accordingly and use less factors of production, i.e. firms are demanding less labour. And if firms are demanding less labour, it means that the unemployment level in the economy is likely to rise. In this example, we notice that consumption levels fall and then unemployment levels rise. So we can say that unemployment is a lagging variable for consumption.